Clint Eastwood. The name alone brings images of a tough, no-nonsense man. He's been a major figure in Hollywood for decades, known for both his acting and directing skills. But Eastwood is more than just a Hollywood icon. He's a man of strong opinions, unafraid to speak his mind, whether it's on screen or off. Eastwood's career took off in the 1960s with the famous Dollars trilogy, directed by Sergio Leone. His role as the man with no name made him an international star. From there, he became a household name, starring in Dirty Harry, a role that perfectly captured his tough guy persona. Over the years, Eastwood became more than just an actor. He transitioned into directing and producing, creating films like Unforgiven and $1 Million Baby, both of which earned him critical acclaim and multiple Oscars. But Clint Eastwood isn't just known for his career in film. He's also known for his outspoken views on politics. Over the years, Eastwood has been open about his conservative beliefs, which has often made him a controversial figure in Hollywood. His political opinions have sparked debates, especially when he spoke at the 2012 Republican National Convention, addressing an empty chair, supposedly representing then-President Barack Obama. That moment became a viral sensation, further cementing Eastwood's reputation as someone who isn't afraid to challenge the norm. Throughout it all, Clint Eastwood has built a reputation as someone who values honesty, independence, and freedom of thought. His blunt demeanor and willingness to stand up for what he believes in have earned him respect from his fans and criticism from his detractors. But regardless of your views, there's no denying that Clint Eastwood is one of the most influential figures in American film and culture. The journalist in question was someone who had made a name for herself in the media world. She was known for her bold opinions, especially when it came to politics. A liberal voice in a sea of conservative perspectives, she wasn't afraid to speak her mind, no matter how controversial the topic. Her work had gained attention over the years, often sparking debates and discussions on social media and news outlets. With her sharp, sometimes biting commentary, this journalist had earned a reputation as a fearless interviewer, one who would go after even the most famous names in entertainment and politics. She was known for her hard-hitting questions, digging deep into the personal and political beliefs of her subjects. Whether on television, radio, or online, she always made sure to leave an impression, even if it meant ruffling a few feathers along the way. Her political leanings were no secret. As a liberal journalist, she often challenged the views of those on the right, particularly in the realm of social issues and government policies. She was passionate about issues like climate change, social justice, and equality, and she wasn't afraid to voice her stance on these topics, often stirring up heated responses from her audience. The journalist had crossed paths with many famous figures, but Clint Eastwood was different. His conservative views were well known, and this created an opportunity for the journalist. She saw the chance to ask him a question that would challenge his beliefs, a question that would force him to defend his stance. She wasn't shy about pushing boundaries, and she believed this interview with Eastwood would be no different. It was a warm afternoon when the interview took place. The setting was a small, intimate gathering, a press conference where Clint Eastwood was promoting his latest film. The room was filled with reporters, camera crews, and a few lucky fans who had managed to secure a spot. There was a buzz in the air, the usual excitement that came with interviews involving big names like Eastwood. But little did anyone know, something intense was about to unfold. The journalist had been preparing for this moment. She had done her research, and she was ready. She knew Clint Eastwood's reputation, his political views, and the type of questions he usually avoided. But this time, she wasn't going to shy away from tackling the elephant in the room. She was there to get an answer from him, one that would put him on the spot. It wasn't about making friends or being polite, it was about getting to the truth as she saw it. As Eastwood sat in front of the press, answering the usual questions about his career, the tone of the room was relaxed. He was in his element, responding with his trademark confidence and wit. But the journalist could tell that Eastwood's calm demeanor was about to be challenged. She knew the time to ask her question was fast approaching. When the moment arrived, she raised her hand. The moderator, a seasoned professional, nodded in her direction, giving her the floor. With the eyes of the room on her, she stood up, her voice steady, but there was a hint of tension. This wasn't going to be a typical interview question. She had something far more provocative in mind. She took a breath, made sure all eyes were on her, and then she asked the question that would change everything. The room fell silent as the journalist asked her question. It wasn't just a casual inquiry about his latest film or his career. No, this was something much more pointed. She looked directly at Clint Eastwood, her voice clear and firm, and she asked, "Mr. Eastwood, with your outspoken conservative views, do you think your political beliefs are hurting your career? And do you ever regret aligning yourself with certain political figures?" The question hung in the air, its weight heavy on everyone in the room. For many, it felt like a sharp jab, something meant to challenge Eastwood's principles, his legacy, and his image in the public eye. It wasn't the kind of question you would expect from a reporter at a standard press event. It was personal, almost accusatory. And for Eastwood, who was used to speaking his mind, it was clearly a challenge to his character and his choices. The journalist was aware of the tension she was creating. This wasn't just about getting an answer. It was about making a statement. She had carefully chosen her words, aiming to push him into a corner, to get him to reveal something more than his typical responses. She knew Clint Eastwood had a reputation for being tough and unapologetic, but she was hoping her question would shake that confidence just enough to get a real, raw reaction. The audience could feel the change in atmosphere. Eyes shifted nervously, unsure of how Eastwood would respond. His career had been built on playing tough guys, the kind of characters who never backed down, no matter the odds. But this was different. This was real life, and this question was more than just an on-screen confrontation. It was a personal attack on his values and his public persona. The room waited. The journalist's question had landed with force. But how would Clint Eastwood respond? For a moment, Clint Eastwood didn't say anything. The silence in the room was deafening. Everyone was waiting, trying to gauge what would happen next. Eastwood's face was unreadable, his eyes steady on the journalist who had just questioned him so boldly. Then, in his usual slow and deliberate way, he shifted in his seat and leaned slightly forward. He didn't seem rattled, but there was a noticeable intensity in his gaze. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, but firm, every word carrying weight. "I don't regret anything I've done in my life, especially when it comes to standing up for what I believe in," he said. "If my views upset some people, so be it. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to make my movies and speak my truth." The response was direct, cutting through the tension like a knife. There was no hesitation, no stammering, just a sharp clarity in his words. But what came next left the room stunned. Eastwood's tone remained steady, but his next sentence had a rawness to it, an honesty that many weren't expecting. "If someone doesn't like me because of my political views, that's their problem, not mine. I've had people tell me they don't agree with my politics. But guess what? I don't lose sleep over it. We all have our opinions, and I don't expect anyone to agree with me all the time. That's the beauty of being an American." The journalist seemed taken aback, perhaps not expecting such a forceful reply. She paused for a moment, as if to collect her thoughts, but Eastwood wasn't done yet. "I've spent my life making films, living my life the way I see fit. And no one, not a single person, is going to tell me how I should think or feel about anything, especially not based on politics." His words hung in the air, leaving a lingering feeling of awe in the room. Eastwood had faced many challenges in his life, but this was different. This wasn't just about defending a movie or a role. This was about defending his personal integrity and beliefs. It was a response that shocked the world, not because it was out of character, but because of the power and simplicity of the truth behind it. The journalist, now visibly shaken, didn't know how to respond. The question she had asked, meant to push him to the edge, had instead revealed a side of Clint Eastwood that was even more resolute and unapologetic than anyone had imagined. Once Clint Eastwood's words sank in, the reactions started pouring in from every corner. The room was buzzing, reporters quickly tapping on their phones, capturing every word of the exchange. The journalist, still processing his response, didn't immediately follow up. Instead, the focus shifted to the media outlets covering the event. The first reports began to emerge, and they couldn't have been more different. Some outlets praised Eastwood for his unwavering stance, hailing him as a symbol of independence and strength. "Clint Eastwood stands tall in the face of adversity," one headline read. Others, however, were far less kind. Critics accused him of being out of touch, suggesting his refusal to address his political views' impact on his career was a sign of arrogance. Eastwood refuses to apologize for his beliefs, even at the cost of alienating his fans, one article stated. The media storm was immediate and intense. On one hand, you had those who admired his courage and refusal to conform. They saw him as a man who had lived his life on his own terms, and that was something to respect. On the other hand, there were many who felt his response had been dismissive, a refusal to even acknowledge the weight his political beliefs carried in today's divided world. The questions surrounding Eastwood's career were now being asked in a new light. Was his outspokenness becoming a liability, or was it a reflection of the very qualities that had made him a beloved figure for so many? Social media reactions were equally polarized. Supporters of Eastwood flooded Twitter, praising his boldness and applauding his ability to speak without fear. "Clint Eastwood just told it like it is," one tweet read. "He's not backing down. Respect." But the critics were loud too. Many liberal-leaning Twitter users were quick to express their dissatisfaction. Eastwood's response was insulting, one user wrote. "He's out of touch with reality if he thinks his political views don't matter." The hashtag Eastwood controversy began trending as the discussion about his comments spread across platforms. Even talk shows picked up the story. Late-night hosts had a field day, with some joking about Eastwood's response, while others dissected it in a more serious tone. One host pointed out that while Eastwood had a right to his beliefs, it seemed as though he was refusing to acknowledge the consequences those beliefs had in today's political climate. The conversation about Eastwood's response wasn't just about him anymore. It became a larger conversation about the intersection of politics, celebrity, and the expectations of public figures. It was clear that this interview, and Clint Eastwood's shocking response, had sparked a firestorm. The debate wasn't just about his career anymore. It was about how personal beliefs and public personas could clash in the most unexpected of ways. After the storm of media coverage and public backlash, Clint Eastwood didn't stay quiet for long. A few days after the interview, he addressed the controversy in his usual calm and collected manner. There was no hint of regret in his voice, nor any signs of him trying to soften his response. Instead, he doubled down on his original stance. "I said what I needed to say," Eastwood stated in a brief interview with a small, local news outlet. "I'm not going to apologize for standing up for my beliefs. If people can't handle that, that's their issue, not mine. I've lived my life without worrying about what others think, and that won't change now." He continued, acknowledging that while people were free to disagree with him, he wouldn't let it affect his career. "If people choose not to support my work because of my politics, then they don't have to watch my films. It's as simple as that. I've always been about making the kind of movies I believe in, and if that doesn't sit well with some folks, then we part ways. But that doesn't mean I'll change who I am or what I stand for." Despite the backlash, Eastwood's response seemed to settle the matter for him. He didn't spend time defending himself in interviews or making public apologies. For Eastwood, it wasn't about seeking validation from the media or his fans. It was about staying true to himself. He was used to being a figure that sparked debate and controversy. This time, it was no different. Behind the scenes, however, there was some discussion about the long-term effects of his comments. While he was resolute in his decision, there were others in his circle who expressed concern about the potential impact on his future projects. In Hollywood, where political views can often dictate box office success or failure, some wondered if Eastwood's unapologetic stance would limit the type of roles or projects he could pursue moving forward. Despite the concerns of his inner circle, Clint Eastwood's public image remained largely unchanged. His fans, those who had supported him for years, stood by him. They respected his ability to be unapologetically himself. In a world where many celebrities carefully toe the line, Eastwood had remained his own man, and for many, that was a quality worth admiring. It was clear that this moment wasn't going to break Clint Eastwood. His reputation as a man of conviction, as someone who never apologized for who he was, only grew stronger. The world could disagree with him, but that wouldn't change the way he chose to live his life. The incident between Clint Eastwood and the journalist left a lasting impact on both the actor and the media landscape. In the weeks that followed, the conversation about Eastwood's response continued to circulate. His bold stance had sparked debates, but it also opened up deeper discussions about the role of politics in entertainment, the expectations placed on public figures, and the line between personal beliefs and public personas. For Clint Eastwood, the incident did not tarnish his legacy. If anything, it reinforced the image of a man who had always done things his way. His career, spanning decades, had already been marked by defiance and independence. This moment, however controversial, was just another chapter in his story. He wasn't going to change who he was or how he viewed the world to fit anyone else's expectations. That unwavering commitment to his principles only solidified his place in Hollywood history as a true icon. But for others, particularly the journalists, the aftermath was more complicated. While her question had received widespread attention, it also stirred up a backlash. Many criticized her for being too confrontational, for pushing Eastwood in a direction that led to a public clash. Her career didn't suffer, but the incident did bring questions about her approach to journalism. Was she too focused on provoking reactions, even at the expense of meaningful conversation? The debate over her question, and the resulting response, would linger in the media for months to come. In the broader cultural landscape, the incident served as a reminder of the growing divide between different political and social groups. Eastwood's response was a reflection of a particular mindset, one that values individual freedom and unwavering beliefs. It also highlighted how public figures, especially in Hollywood, are often expected to conform to the expectations of certain audiences or risk facing criticism. This moment became a symbol of defiance in a world where many celebrities felt pressured to remain neutral or adhere to the prevailing cultural norms. Eastwood's refusal to back down resonated with those who admired his stance, while it alienated others who felt his politics were divisive. But regardless of where people stood, one thing was certain. Clint Eastwood had once again shown that he was not someone who could be easily swayed by public opinion. In the end, the incident between the journalist and Clint Eastwood wasn't just a fleeting moment. It marked a significant chapter in the ongoing conversation about celebrity, politics, and the cost of speaking your truth in a divided world. And for Clint Eastwood, it was yet another reminder that in Hollywood, and in life, he would always stand firm in his beliefs, no matter the consequences.